Hello again, and today we are going to be planting some onions from seed. There's two ways you can start onions. One is from seed that we're going to start today. You can also buy what's called onion sets. They're little baby onions from last year that didn't really size up, and you can buy them by the bag of 100 or 200. Coastal's a good source for that. Pretty cheap. Those are super easy. You just stick them in the ground so that the top is just about a ½ inch under the soil surface. Walk away and leave them alone. Onion seeds are a little bit more involved. Just getting rid of some rocks here. You want some decent potting soil. I just use a mix of soil from our chicken pen, well aged, and some peat moss to break it up a little bit, and some other garden soil and some old potting mix. Pretty nice and rich. You want to make sure your potting mix is good and moist. You don't want it all dried out or it will not hold water. The stuff with the peat moss in it in particular, once that stuff dries out, the water just runs straight through it and you're going to lose a lot of water. So soak it if it's dry. If it's not, you're in good shape. You can just go. Lots of ways to start seeds. These little tiny cells are great in a tray to hold drainage water. I like, and these are a little bit bigger, I actually like a deeper one for onions in particular. I'm going to use these later for squash and melons and cucumbers and probably tomatoes and a few other goodies. For our onions, I'm just going to use a deep pot. It's about 6 inches deep, maybe 5 by 5 wide. I think these are called half-gallon pots, but they're actually more like a quart and a half. Says 2 quart, but we'll have to take their word for it. So just for onions, pretty easy. Onions grow really well, nice and crowded. Sift your soil in there. If you got a piece of bark like that or a stone, break up clumps. You want it fairly fine grained, don't worry too much about it. Sift that soil in there until you're about 1 inch, 3/4 of an inch from the top. Get that nice and level. It's gonna settle down some as you go. You can see it's already settling a bit there. So let's top that up just a little bit. And then onions you can plant really crowded. They're very easy to transplant. Some plants you really don't want that crowded. Excuse me. Onions you can. So this is a mix of storage onions. That means they last really well into the winter. They're not like the green scallions or anything. A couple red onions, red Creole, red bull, Cipollini onion, one called Talon, one called Copra. Just a mix saved from year to year. They're these big black seeds, and that's a lot. So I'm probably not going to use all of those. Scatter them in there. Put it hand in between so hopefully you can see them going in there. They can be pretty darn crowded in there. Maybe just a few more over here. That looks pretty good. Pretty crowded. Maybe a little overcrowded, but we'll thin those out later. The rest can go back, not into your potting soil. And then you just want to cover that with about 1/4 inch of loose soil. And you really don't want any clods on the top of that. 1/4 inch or so of loose soil. Into the corners. Shake it down a little bit, get the clumps off the top. Any stones, you can toss those. And that's really all you need to do. Now, I'm going to water those in nicely. Again, get rid of the chunky stuff here so things can come up. Alright, so I'm going to water that in, and those will start coming up. Excuse me. And when they're about 5 or 6 inches tall, I'm going to keep them indoors to get going, and then put them out probably in a cold frame. When they're about 5-6 inches tall, it'll look a lot like grass, little thin seedlings. You can separate them, knock them all out, take the whole clump out of the container, and they will have really long, really thick, strong rootlets on there. much tougher than most of your little seedlings are going to have as rootlets. You can pick those apart pretty handily, especially if your soil's nice and loose like that, and then just plant them about 6 inches apart in your garden. And you want the join where the root joins the rest of the plant, you want that join about an inch and a half underground, so you can have a nice big bulb developing there, have nice sturdy roots deep in the ground, and they will do really well. The advantage to starting from seed is that onions started from seed do tend to bulb up a little better than ones started from those little onion sets. The sets are much easier to get going. So whatever is going to work for you. Like I said, Coastal's a good place for onion sets by the bag of, I think, 200. We usually plant 3 bags full if we're doing sets. So we usually plant about 600 onions in a year. The seeds are great. Sometimes I'll do both, just a mix, just whatever we're working with, and however lazy I'm feeling that year. So there's our onions. And we'll be back again for another plant to grow.